This is Valerie Aiello, and you are listening to Idea Diary. How's it going, y'all? Thanks for hanging out with me if you are back. I figured out the Monique situation. I don't know what to call it. It's so the Monique story is the reason why I am sort of obsessed with this. I'm diving deep into the story is because I think Monique she's fighting for equality in paychecks, but I think more than that, I think she's fighting for artists being paid a fair wage compared to, well, let me just get into it. But I think it is super relevant as a creative person. The fight that she's fighting is something super important. And I feel like people are not, there's a lot of drama behind it. There's twists and turns. There's weird stuff. And I feel like she is doing something great. It's just very complicated. And I think she knows that. And I think she's kind of cool with it. And she's still fighting for it. But you be the judge out there. Okay, so Monique, I've got kind of a list of things to talk about. Monique was making $50,000 a show. So one stand-up hour, she could sell enough tickets to make $50,000 as a comedian. And not a lot of people figure that out. So we already know she's a pretty smart cookie and a very lucky person. Not lucky as in she's not talented, but lucky. There's a lot of talented people that cannot figure out how to make $1 off comedy. So she figured it out. She was a rising star. And her dream was to be a talk show host and a comedian. She never wanted to be an actor. She still, to this day, I don't think, has ever auditioned for a role. The roles were offered to her for her TV show that she was on, the hit TV show. And the movie, whatever came along, it was a friend, someone who knew her, asked her. Okay, so the first of the trouble came was when Lee Daniels, her friend, asked her to be the role that she played. He asked her to do the role for $50,000. And he thought he was all excited that she would get paid $50,000, that he was finally coming to her with a project that there was money. And she just said, okay, I'll take it for the art of it. But just so you know, I make $50,000 in 1 hour. So I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it for basically art. And she got a 5% back end of the movie if it made money. No one knew it was going to win an Oscar. No one knew what they were making until it was made. Or they didn't know how good it was going to be. And so with her 5% back end that she got, she still only made, to this day, I think, $75,000, including her $50K for her acting services. So she got $15,000 off of an Oscar-winning movie. I'm sure that movie probably made more than that, as far as the 5% cut. But, what do I know? So that's when the Oscar nomination came. And she did press for the USA, so she went to all the talk shows and did the whole thing. And at that time, she had a talk show, her own talk show on BET, and she was still doing comedy tours. I don't know how many performances she was doing, but anyone would be busy. She knows the value of her time. And so when Lionsgate bought Precious, and they said, you've done such a great job promoting the movie in the United States. It's going to be in the Cannes Film Festival. Will you go to France? And she said, no. It's family time. I have 2 minutes to spend time with my family, and that's what I'm going to do. They kept asking her, and then finally, her husband just said, because they asked her, what is it going to take to get Monique to go to Cannes and promote the movie? Because they were offering her more days in France and a nicer hotel and all this stuff. And that wasn't what she wanted. What she wanted was time with her family. And she was not contractually obligated to do anything for the movie except do a great performance in the movie. That was it. So when her husband, they asked her what will it take to get her to France, and he said, well, is there money involved? What's the offer? And then they were all offended that he asked for money after they said no multiple times. You know, that kind of all makes sense. How that all happened makes sense. And her saying no, which was the catalyst for she was difficult. No one had ever accused her of being difficult before. And just the word no made her seem, whether it was the press that took it and ran with it, or they wanted people, they weren't happy, someone wasn't happy and wanted her to know, wanted everyone to know that she was difficult for whatever reason. And when she did win an Oscar, she didn't specifically name Lee Daniels' name as a thank you, and that somehow made him fly off the handle, apparently. I don't know. Okay, the second drama happened when Oprah asked Monique if she could interview her brother who sexually molested her when she was younger. And I guess Monique said, there's no way I'm coming on your show. You should not have any association with him. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm not coming to that show. But what Oprah didn't ask or tell her was that Oprah intended to put her entire family on stage. So Monique said, if I had known that you were going to put my entire family on stage, I would have absolutely told you, please do not do that. So again, she wasn't told the full truth. And maybe Oprah didn't know at that time that she was going to have her entire family on that stage. It doesn't really matter. It was very weird. I feel like that's a very weird thing to ask somebody. And as far as Oprah asking Monique if she could have her brother on stage on a show just for a rating, I just feel like Oprah has tens of millions of more ideas to make a good show. That doesn't sound like a good show. It doesn't sound valuable, really, if Monique isn't involved and wants it to happen. It was weird. I kind of agree with Monique on that. I agree with Monique on the Precious thing. I agree with Monique on the Oprah thing. Weird. All weird. All she did was say no, basically. And she's portrayed as the bad guy, or demanding an apology from Oprah makes her a bad guy. And really, I think it's just stuff that everyone could move on from. It did happen. It was weird. Monique wasn't the cause of any of it. And yet it's just kind of like she's put in this drama. Okay, the next thing was the Netflix thing. So Netflix offered Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle these huge offers, and they had been on hiatus for a long time. They offered Amy Schumer a huge offer, which was $12 million or so. And yes, all those three comedians are all probably more famous, they could fill huge auditoriums, when Monique is very famous, but in a different level, I would say, or just in a different way. She could, who knows how many tickets she could sell, but it's, it's just a little bit different. But her offer, they're offering these other people millions. Her offer was $500,000. And then it came out later that Wanda Sykes' offer was $250,000. So I don't know if working with Netflix, it's like a one-shot deal. Like, basically you're going to gamble. You're going to give us your special. We're going to pay you up front. So you know at least how much the special is going to make. Or you could release it on your own and gamble making less money. It just seems, I think the deal was you make it once and this is all you get from it. So it could have been the biggest success in the world. She would never see another dime beyond the $500,000. It doesn't sound like a good deal, especially if she has, as far as being a comedian, she has a huge fan base just as a comedian alone, not including the Oscar nominations and just being famous in general. I don't know how, I'm not in the comedian scene, so I don't really know what numbers she pulls, but she basically said no and then told everybody what the offer was because she felt like there's something fishy with the number. So was it bad that she let everyone know the offer number? I don't know, but she did. And, I think if was fighting for a certain number, she never said that the other comedians don't deserve what they get, but it was just her number didn't make sense. And she was just letting everyone know, I guess as a creative wage activist, in a way, what it was. So honestly, I don't think anyone's going to lowball her after that. And they may not ever come back. Who knows? As far as these people that Netflix type of in studios and stuff, I don't know. She says the offers never stopped coming. It's just none of the offers made sense based on what she was told. When you win an Oscar, your paycheck automatically goes into this realm of huge numbers, and those numbers were never offered to her. The roles were. So I don't know. So another thing that happened was Lee Daniels asked her to do a role on the show Empire that he was creating, but didn't tell anyone else, or he basically wouldn't admit to it that he offered her the role. And she didn't. They ended up going with whoever got the role. And she said she loved that woman's work. The woman was perfect for the role. It was again another situation. She didn't ask Netflix to send her a deal. She didn't ask Lee Daniels to put her in a TV show. They asked her, and then it didn't work out. And so now she's looking like the bad guy in some way. It's very confusing. But I'm just kind of running down what happened. So it just that everyone just thought she was like pulling this out of the air, that she was offered this Empire role just to talk about herself, and it made her seem delusional and crazy. But then she had the emails where they were asking her to go do a screen test for whatever reason, and it was true. They, whether or not Lee Daniels wants to admit it or not, like something went on where she was assuming she was being asked if she wanted the role. Okay, so then she was in this movie called, it was a Christmas movie. I don't know the official title of it. So when she worked on that movie, one of the producers sent out this email to her, and it got leaked in some way telling her how awful she was treating the crew, basically saying her husband was brainwashing her, doing her wrong, and whoever this producer was on this movie that this email got leaked out, basically people are saying like, okay, there's this long list of people that'll never work with Monique again, and making it seem like she's the problem, not these situations. And yeah, she's pushing back and saying no, but I'm still not seeing specific proof. So being mean on set, being unreasonable, that kind of goes into he said, she said scenario. If somebody wants to come out, I feel like watching all these interviews with Monique, I feel like if there was anyone who had a problem with Monique, that she would kind of love to, the whole time she's asking for, let's publicly talk this through. Let's get it out. Like, let's figure out a solution and be friends again and move past this. This isn't that big a deal. That's just the vibe that I'm getting when I'm listening to interviews with her. So the whole thing with making it seem like her husband's controlling her and brainwashing her and giving her bad advice. So her husband was her friend for 30 years, and they have this kind of like open relationship thing. But so her husband never wanted to be her manager. How that all came about was that she had the fancy Hollywood agent, the fancy Hollywood managers, whatever it was, and they were sitting in a meeting, and her manager basically fired himself because they're sitting in a meeting and he's admitting to her that when he's making a deal, he's leaning towards the side of the studios, because if he makes better deals with the studio's interest in mind, then more movies can be made. And so he's sitting there saying, basically take one for the team so more movies can be made. And she's sitting there saying like that she wants somebody that's going to represent her, that has her interest in mind, not these studios and the projects. And I feel like what's happening is it's just kind of the new way to do business. And I'll get into that later. But it seems like to me, and when her husband's in the interview with her and talking, he seems like a pretty smooth talker. Like he can, I could see where somebody might think, oh, he's just a smooth talker and he can kind of convince you to go with his way of thinking. But also what he's saying does make sense, and I just don't get I understand the creepy vibe a little bit, but I still, I don't see that he's trying to scam in any way. He's just he's dealing with the situation the best he knows how with the situations that are being brought to him. Anyways. Okay, another thing that happened was the Whoopi Goldberg thing. So she was on The View. Monique was on The View, and Whoopi tells her on camera on the show that she needs to, if Monique would have called Whoopi, she would have schooled her on how to properly work the game. And it was kind of a passive thing to tell somebody, kind of insulting. I would agree with that. So that was on the show, live on TV. Whoopi's telling Monique, I would have told you how to work all this. You wouldn't be in any of this trouble. And Monique is you can kind of see in her face, she's kind of shocked, because it is kind of a little bit weird. But then after the show, Monique goes backstage and goes to Oprah's dressing room office. And Whoopi tells her salary that she gets on The View. So being Whoopi Goldberg, a treasured actress, 10 years on The View, keeping that show afloat. Her pay was so low to what Monique understands about how much these productions are making in some way and how much a TV show can make, a hit TV show on for 10 years. That Monique basically told Whoopi, I've got to fight for you too. You are ruining, by you accepting that salary, you are ruining everybody. You're not only ruining it for the next guy, you're ruining it for yourself. And it's insulting that you would take that low of a paycheck. So anyway, that happened. And then years later, Steve Harvey, he kind of got roped into all this too. But Steve Harvey puts her on his show, kind of promises that he could get Oprah and have this public show where they could all talk it out and it'd be public. So she doesn't seem crazy and everyone knows what she's talking about. And they know, everyone, it's all laid out there. Well, Steve couldn't get the other people to be on his show. But Monique goes on the show and they're talking about it again. And Steve Harvey is, he's on TV. He's telling her she's got to play the game. And she needs to be nice and she needs to apologize. And you can I kind of could see in his face where he does seem a little distressed, because I feel like what he knows that he is not telling her, like inside he's like, everyone's got to get along, you got to be nice and make sure people like you, and it's not the right thing. I feel like it's not the right thing to say to somebody. If she wants to talk about her feelings and what's going on publicly, that's what she wants to do, and so the main things is what I think is obvious, which is she doesn't care about the money. Isn't important. She knows how to make money. She never wanted to be a movie star. That kind of fell into her lap. So being a movie star isn't the end all be all of her motivation. And she obviously cares about art because she has produced her own movies. And when she's talking about her projects that she's worked on in an independent way, you can tell she's passionate, and she does care about the art and the art of comedy. She says she doesn't want to be censored as a comedian, which and everyone probably agrees with. So anyway, I know this is getting over 15 minutes, but I just want to fit this all. These are just my thoughts. I want to fit it all into one show. So the point is I feel like what's happening here is that the business, okay, if every movie is its own business, then it should be laid out in a way, and it should be broken down in a way to where it's like the talent that are investing the people that are investing money and the people that are investing talent, it's kind of all laid out, like who is making money off of this movie. And if a portion of that movie, if that revenue portion is going to go to the next movie that you may or may not be a part of, I think that should be laid out on the table. Executives getting paychecks for movies and music and TV shows, and these studios, I feel like it's an old-fashioned way. I feel like a band is its own business, a movie is its own business, a TV show is its own business. And I feel like what Monique is saying is that she's saying this business model is messed up and y'all are making so much money and you're not paying the talent what they should be paid. This is thank you very much. She played the system, she played the game, making some Hollywood movies, making TV shows in the way that it was. And now that she knows better, she's saying, no, I'm not going to work for that amount of money. And she may never make a TV show again. She may never make a movie again. But she's at least putting her foot down, and she's doing it publicly, and she's letting everyone know what's happening. And I think it's going to change the game. It might not be yet, but I think what she's doing is important, and it is going to change the game for creative people, getting a cut of that huge amount of money that each successful project ends up making. So yeah, the TV shows from the 80s and the 90s, I think with the black cast, like what's happening, actors can be replaced, but there's that magic moment when it's a cast and the writers and the production team and the cast, it all makes sense and it makes magic, which I'm sure happens with movies like it happens with bands. And I think there's something wrong when people make a show very popular and they're a star of the show and then they die broke. There is a problem. And I think it's just coming to light. And I think Monique is fighting for something really good. Even if you don't like her approach or whatever, I think she's definitely the start of pushing back on the old way of doing things. Actresses used to get long contracts and kind of get paid hourly almost they would get locked into these bad deals, and then that changed to where everyone was independent. Actors and actresses got to choose movie by movie or whatever it was. I feel like things are changing. I feel like she's definitely a part of it. I think it's really interesting. You can let me know what you think. I did see Monique. So she can be a comedian for the rest of her life. She doesn't need anything to pay her bills. There's a comedy club in every city in the world. And she can get on stage and sell tickets and feed her family and pay her bills. Whatever, she's figured it out. But I did see there's a Dr. Oz. She was on Dr. Oz show, and it's just a clip, but she's interviewing people in the audience. Like they're telling Monique their problems, and she's giving them advice, and it's pretty good. There's it feels like a little tearjerker moment in about 5 minutes. So when she's talking to people, there's something that happens. So I would say she needs another show. She needs a talk show where she interviews people, not celebrities. And there was another clip that I saw. She was on this Las Vegas show. So she did a Las Vegas residency for her comedy. And so she was on a morning show for a radio station. And they had some callers calling in. And this single father called in telling her how much his daughters loved her. And she, it's just this weird tearjerker moments. They're real fast. And she is talking to these people, and it's good. So I would love to see more of that. But, we'll see what happens with Monique. I definitely feel like she's not going away. She's going to figure out something really good to do with her talent. And something's going to happen, and I support her in her fight. Even though it's a little confusing about what it is, and there's all these ins and outs and weird scenarios and different things. I believe she's fighting for talent's wages being fair, and things are, for what she's done. I thank her. I put that out there in the universe, and hopefully something amazing happens for her, even if I think she's happy with whatever is happening, but I'll end the show there. You tell me what you think. And I still don't know how to end the show, so I'm just going to play the music.